One of the things that's really important to be aware of is the fact that if you are a woman who is surrounded by people who are potentially kind of insecure, and you are trying to grow something, whatever it might be, it could be a business or some kind of venture that you're working on. So any kind of project, anything that you're looking at manifesting, you may well be blocking your blessings if you have experienced insecure behavior from the people around you in the past. And on some level, you have, without realizing it, decided to play small in order to keep everyone sweet. And the reason why I'm saying this is because this is something I have experienced for myself, and it's been an interesting realization for me actually pinpointing this and going, so that was what was going on. Okay. Essentially, if you are here with purpose work to do, an important message to deliver to the world, whatever it might be, in the form of whatever work you're doing, it could be creative work, you could be a musician, you could be an artist, you could be an actress, you could be a model, you could be some kind of creative, you could be an energy worker like me, you could be a writer, any number of things. You may have had success with stuff in the past. You may now be looking at things going, why aren't they working now? I'm doing all the things theoretically that would make what I'm doing now work, but somehow it's not working. If that's the case, then what you've got going on is a subconscious issue, usually to do with emotional blockages, to do with stuff that's happened in the past where you have made a decision at some point that it's not safe for you to show up, shine, and receive at the level that you want to, due to the fact that other people might get upset and that you might end up feeling targeted as a result. And this is where I'm going to say to you that there's a number of things that you need to kind of take on board with all of this stuff when you are looking at this particular issue and dynamic. And one of those things is to really get on top of your own energetic management. And that will include doing things like making damn sure that you are not emotionally enmeshed or entangled with stuff on social media. If you're quite sensitive, it's quite common to actually end up with enmeshments you're not even aware of from reading other people's shit posts on social media. Okay, so that's one thing to be aware of. The other thing is to be aware of the fact that if you have had run-ins with family members, blended family members, friends, or whatever in the past, where they've had shit fits about the fact that essentially they were jealous of successes you've had in the past and they were projected onto you and probably made excuses for it and all the rest of it. Because, like, I'd say the majority of people, if you've got, and this is where we get into the astrological stuff, so if you've got planets in the 12th house in your astrology chart, whether you're looking at sidereal or tropical, planets in, is it planets in the 7th house, planets in the 12th house? It might be something to do with 4th house planets as well. I'm like I've said before in other videos, I'm not an astrologer, but I do look at this stuff because it's kind of useful to know. It gives you a little bit of an overview when you look at your chart as to what your specific kind of issues might be that need dealing with and kind of putting to bed when it comes to anything that you're creating. Okay. But if you've got planets in the 12th house, they call the 12th house the house of hidden enemies for a reason, okay? And because it's to do with the subconscious, essentially what happens, if you've got planets in the 12th house, I happen to have a fucking stellium in my 12th house. So yeah, I've got a lot going on there. There's a big upside to 12th house stuff. as far as I'm concerned anyway, it makes you much more switched on and aware. There's a lot I could say about the 12th house in terms of the fact that if you have 12th house planets going on, you are a magical motherfucker, whether you want to acknowledge the fact or not. And I would also add into that, it's probably time you learn to work with this stuff. In which case, check out all the stuff underneath this video, because there are details there as to how you can work with me if this is what tickles your fancy. Either that, or basically put a request in with your higher self to bring you the right person, okay? And if I keep popping up in your feed, that means that's me, okay? So, essentially, with the 12th house stuff, that on the plus side of things, you're a magical motherfucker. And astrologers don't come for me here, you know. As far as I'm concerned, as a 12th house stellium, I know I'm a magical motherfucker. I also know the downside of everything, the shadow side of having a 12th house stellium, which is that hidden enemy stuff. And I have found throughout my life that sometimes my successes tend to rub other people up the wrong way for whatever reason. Like they talk about sort of triggering their insecurities and all the rest of it. Where it's been tricky for me is where I've been sensitive to them and their insecurities, and I've then allowed that to hold me back. So if you can identify with anything that I'm saying here about being surrounded by people that you may love very dearly, but you may also recognize the fact that they've got some insecurities and some shit they're not dealing with, and they're a bit emotionally incoherent, and they don't really deal with their trauma very well, and so on and so forth. It's something to be aware of. You may well be blocking your blessings without even realizing it, in order to play small, in order to play nice with them so that they don't get triggered. And I will say to you right now, you will make yourself miserable if you continue to do this. And this is where you have to be prepared to put on the villain hat, okay, in this lovely 3D world that we live in. The victim, villain, rescuer triangle. Sometimes you've got to be prepared to be the villain and let other people get triggered, and actually be able to manage your own energy enough to the point where when they get triggered, it slides off you, which means you have to deal with your trauma first, because otherwise they get triggered and then they re-trigger you, and then you end up in a loop. And it's messy, and no one wants that shit, basically. So, effectively, if you are frustrated with a lack of results, so on and so forth, and you literally know that you are capable of getting much bigger results and you can't understand why, then start to look at what you're surrounded by in your environment in terms of like family, blended family, friends, acquaintances, and how emotionally volatile they might be, and then go into whether you might be holding yourself back and literally blocking good things from coming to you in order that they don't get triggered by your success and kick off at you. And if you want to talk more about this and basically work on unraveling all this shit, one of the things that I offer is a pack called The Reset, which includes Reboot 11. It includes another Reboot 2, and it actually helps with sorting all of this stuff out so you can actually stand strong in your own inner authority and power and move forwards. And the link is below this video. I'm sending you so much love. Mwah. Bye for now.